On February 24th, 1933, gangsters gunned down Dennis Ziegler here in Chicago. Ziegler died in his son's arms. He leaves behind 11 children and his wife, Edna.
I'm Lissa Morgans, and you're listening to Call Edna. Hello, and welcome back to Call Edna, the podcast where I'm solving my great-great-grandfather's Prohibition-era murder. If you still want to call and leave your theory as to who murdered Bruce and why, either the organizer or the person who actually pulled the trigger, don't forget to leave a voicemail at 202-656-7391 by April 20th. Yes, that's today, so you can call right after you listen to the episode, and 5 to 10 voicemails will be included in the final episode of Call Edna. So let's get into today's episode with Danny. Welcome to The Confidant. Here, I'm turning this up now.
DC Dan.
You want me to set it so you can actually look at me?
I think I can look at you and talk.
Yeah, I think that works.
I think that works.
I feel like I'm being interviewed.
I feel like I'm being interviewed.
What would I interview you about?
I don't know. About debauchery in Washington, D.C.
Oh my God. What your favorite spring do you have any restaurants that you go to in DC by season that you have to hit in the spring or the fall?
Oh my God, that's a toughie.
Yeah.
Like a spring restaurant.
Yeah.
Gosh.
You can also say you don't have it.
But I want to say that I do have it. Like DC Dan
cooler.
should have a spring restaurant.
Yeah. Or any springtime activity besides cherry blossoms. That's what everyone does. Did you see the cherry blossoms?
I did see the cherry blossoms. Saturday we walked. Then we went down to the Thompson Boathouse at Georgetown. We walked up to the Lincoln Memorial.
Fun.
And then we went to, we walked around the cherry blossoms. And then went to Any Day Now. So
yeah.
Nice
That's very close to me.
Yeah, scallion pancakes.
Yes.
Yummy.
Yeah.
Yeah. You were thinking of something else.
I got confused for a second, but I've also been to Any Day Now. Did you get the kimchi scallion pancake little sandwich?
Kimchi. I mean, I got a hot chicken, buffalo chicken sandwich on a scallion pancake.
Wait, okay. So.
Right, because now we got to get to the meat and potatoes.
Yes.
Because you're at the very end of this now.
I'm at the end. This is the second to last episode. Do you feel honored?
I do feel honored. I'm going to cheer myself. Because I am on. That's a high honor indeed.
People liked your episode. And I got good feedback on the harmonica.
Well, I'll bring the harmonica back at the very end. And then you can make a decision. Do you keep the harmonica?
Yeah.
Because I had, from people I know, it was mixed. Most of the people really liked my harmonica playing, but a few of the people did not.
Well,
it's so hard to please the public.
Yeah, it's hard, and I know one person who thought it was me on GarageBand doing a harmonica.
That's high praise.
Yes, they thought it was that good.
Yeah, I was high praise that it's GarageBand.
Yeah.
It could be.
I said, no, that was Danny playing the harmonica. So they were astounded.
Well, there's a word I learned and I forgot it. It's going to show what an ignoramus I am. Where when you blow the sound, to make the sound, it's a special word for that.
Wait, I swear, I just was listening to content the past couple weeks that talked about this exact phenomenon.
And you blow.
It's the same as brass instruments. What you
correct,
make?
And the way you blow into a brass instrument.
Oh, I was just listening to something about this.
So that you can have a prize of the listener who knows that can get a.
It was on Good Hang with Amy Poehler.
Yeah, exactly.
They were talking about that exact. Yes, did you listen to that?
Yes, I do, and it was with Steve Carell.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then they talked about whatever that word we can't remember.
Steve Carell was really good at that, and Steve Colbert had to learn how to do that.
Yes.
Because apparently Steve Carell is really good at the blow instruments.
Yeah, I didn't know he was good at blow instruments.
Right, I didn't know that either. But they use that word. There's a special word
there was
just
special
for
word.
that.
And I'm glad we both forgot it.
I am too. It just shows that really smart people
Yes.
forget the easiest word.
The smartest people forget the word. And my mind is doing the thing where you forget a word and then you're like saying words that are not the word, but that are near the word, like scrumptious, like vrom.
Not that I'm an expert on this. And now we've like moved from what we were talking about.
Yes,
which
okay.
was the blow instruments.
But before that, it was
the harmonica.
The harmonica and also the investigation.
And the investigation, because that's really where I'm curious where we are with the investigation.
Because you are not up to date, so I'm updating you live in real time with the listeners.
Because I'm like a blank slate right now.
Yes.
Blank, just feed me information. I'll be like your AI.
Oh my God, you scrape my data.
Artificial intelligence, DI. Danny intelligence.
So last time we chatted, we went over and I got your opinion. I was dealing with a lot of competing factual narratives. Mm-hmm. And some of them I think I've cleared up, but we can touch base back on them. So one of the biggest ones was how many shots were fired.
Right.
Was it 3 or 5? And I'm feeling pretty confident that it's 3. So I went back through like a ton of the newspaper reporting from the days after the murder to look at all the accounts and see how many said one way and how many said another. And only one said 5. And like 3 to 6 of them said 3.
And you never saw there's no autopsy report, obviously.
The autopsy says like several. It's really precise.
Several? Is that... Oh, so you're being sarcastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, because several. Could be 2, could be 18.
Yeah, I do have a pending request right now with the Cook County Medical Examiner's Office. They're looking to pull the original coroner's report, like the whole report, because I only had the 1-page autopsy. We have the one account saying 5, and then everyone else saying 3.
But the doctor, I do remember this.
Yes, the eyewitness. He's the one who said 5.
And he said 5, and he's a doctor.
I know, but every other account says 3, and I just feel like he got a little confused.
Well, it's possible. And yeah, it's all possible.
Yeah.
And he could have heard noises because this was the situation where the electricity popped off. The grid went dead.
I have a small update on that.
How small?
Well, I haven't figured out exactly how it came on or off, but I did get more information on truly how easy it is to turn off the electricity by like snipping a wire.
Especially if you had like bad intent. If you purposely wanted to turn the electricity off, you could do that.
And it's not as high voltage as I thought. So it's not like it would be super dangerous necessarily to do so. So that leads me actually into another thing, which is last time we talked, you actually were on to something.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
I told you the fact pattern was that there was a man standing behind a tree and a car waiting nearby. The car had 2 people in it.
This,
the man's behind the tree. He steps out when Bruce comes and he shoots him. 3 shots to the back of the head. And I was really confused, like, how can you just be behind the tree? How did he know to wait there? Like, it seems really bizarre. I reread the accounts. I made a factual inference, which we all do from time to time, from a picture. And he was not waiting there. He got out of the car when he saw Bruce and like stepped in the direction of the tree, maybe to in part conceal his face.
Well, how did we get this information?
Like any good lawyer does, I went back to all the facts. You know, I feel like when you pick up a case file that you've had for a while, you think you know everything in your head, and sometimes your head slightly tweaks things.
Well, no, that's absolutely true. And you'll see something that's right in front of you, and you're like, well, shit, I didn't even see that before.
Yep, so I went back to all the original and things we found in my family's attic and really read through with a fine-tooth comb and realized that I had the image of the like cartoon picture in my head.
Right.
But he was not waiting. He got out of the car, went to shoot, and then came back.
Into the car with 2 other people. So there are 3 people in the car.
3 people total, yeah.
Right, and he was the shooter got out of the car, bam, 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 to the back of the head.
Yeah. But you were right, because you were asking me questions about that specific fact pattern, because it was a little off. And it makes sense now with the electricity part a lot more, because I was wondering, like, if there's two people in the car and a guy behind a tree, then who the fuck did the electricity? But it makes sense if they were in the car, someone got out, cut the electricity, and then they kept driving until they got to the spot where they thought they'd meet Bruce.
See, I still am suspicious that the electricity was purposely gotten rid of, that they cut the electricity. There's too much planning. Maybe there was all that planning, but it seems like a lot of planning.
It's a lot of premeditation.
A lot of premeditation to go, cut the line, then drive to wherever he was walking.
Yeah.
And then shoot him and get out of the car again at the time that you knew the electricity was going to come off.
I think they clipped it just a couple minutes before, and I think they had been following him for a while. I think they knew his routines. I think they knew which streetcar he was going to take home from work. And so they knew about the window to do everything they needed to do in. But it's an incredible amount of premeditation.
What year is this again?
1933.
1933.
But when I went back through the papers in the attic, I found all these additional threats against him that these groups of people had been making. So I really do think he was being probably stalked for a while to learn his routine. I think he had a very good routine in that he was mostly protected, and when he went from place to place, and this was his most vulnerable point, was his like less than 5-minute walk from the streetcar to his house.
Interesting. And have you come up with any motive yet for why?
It's such a good question. I have so many different motives I can think of for different people. And even for one person, I can come up with a couple. There's a cat. A cat has approached Danny.
And is smelling chalupa. That's my cat.
That's his cat, not a reference to his lunch.
No, I'm not talking about my lunch. I did not eat my cat for
Hi,
lunch.
Ellie. So even like say for William Maloney, which is a guy who I have always thought helped orchestrate it, but wasn't the person who pulled the trigger. For him, I've come up with like 3 different motives. And as you know, once you're working in a conspiracy, you can have like a central motive and then actors working, off of that central motive, or you can all have individual motives. It's really interesting. You have the union organization that's against Bruce,
right.
Local 150, right. Run by Maloney. And then you have organized crime, who probably carried out the hit. And they're working together.
But it's connected to the union, and they're anti-union. They control the union.
They control the unions.
And so if anyone tries to cause ruffles,
yes,
they off you.
Exactly. So Bruce and saying you can't control my union and putting up this big fight, they probably had their own motive against Bruce, but I don't think they acted on it until someone like Maloney said, like, okay, it's time to take him out. He's too close to something. But that is something I've wondered about. Which came first? Did the union people say Bruce needs to go? Or did organized crime say Bruce needs to go? Or were they two one and the same?
And what happened to Maloney? There's no deathbed confession or anything like that.
No, he lives a great life for him. He rises in the ranks, leaves Chicago. He becomes president of the International here in D.C. He moves here, and he's a president for many, many years of the union.
Interesting. And no any kind of confession or anything like that?
No, he almost had a moment where the public got to see who he really was in the late 1950s when there was the big union rackets investigation that he was a part of, where he was being investigated. But it doesn't come to fruition. But that is, I believe, when he loses his job. I'm pretty sure he steps down in 1958 at that time because of public pressure that the union was being investigated. And one big thing is they hadn't had an election in over 25 years.
Right.
Which is crazy.
It is crazy.
And so he attempts to put in essentially his second in command at that time into power, and there's an election in the late 50s.
But that's here in Washington at that point.
Yes. So he leaves Chicago because he rises up. He's no longer just a part of the head of a local. He's now the head of the International Union of Operating Engineers.
But no no ties to organized crime that you ever came up with?
He's loosely tied to Al Capone's gang. They ran in the same circles. He's officially tied to Mike Carrazzo. And Mike Carrazzo also was Capone affiliated.
Carrazzo.
I hope that's how you pronounce it.
It's a good, I mean, he sounds like a good-looking guy. Mike Carrazzo.
It is a cool last name. But yeah, so Maloney had an affiliation with him, Mike Carrazzo, and had loose affiliations with Al Capone.
Right.
And so my biggest question for him is, if he's the main person who wanted Bruce dead, do you think he's in the car, or do you think he just lets like hitmen fully take care of it? Like, does he ever get his hands close to being dirty?
I would be shocked if he was in the car.
You think he's getting the call when they're back home, hey, it's done?
Right. This guy was head of an international labor union. Moved
Later,
to DC,
yeah.
Later on, but
that's what we're talking about.
Highly unlikely
Yeah.
that he would have been in a car. Witness, I mean, there you are absolutely part of the conspiracy. You're in the car with the guy. But that's just conjecture on our part. Like, we have no idea.
That's where I started, but then I found a couple of recorded incidences in the courts and newspapers of him personally threatening Bruce with a gun and chasing Bruce through the street. So it's weird to me that he would do that, but maybe he was always like, threatening is okay in your line of work, but you're not going to actually do it.
Well, right. That's absolutely correct. We talked about this last time. I'm still reading this book about Robert Moses.
Yes.
The Power Brokers.
You're still reading it?
It's like 2,000 pages. Like, American historians could not write a nice, concise, like 300-page. This is like 1,400. But he was a mean SOB.
Yes.
Like, and he would threaten people.
I watched a documentary on him.
Yeah, I remember. And I was looking for that too. But he's still beloved too for a while. Now, I still haven't gone to the end of his career. In the 30s, he's bossing people, and he gets obsessed with power.
Power changes and transforms people, whether or not they recognize it at the time.
But then what you do with that power too.
So you think Maloney's getting the call after he's not in the car?
Maloney's not in the car. We really have no evidence that I've heard so far that even Maloney is involved in this. Unless you can lead me some way. You think Maloney's involved.
In the hit or ordering Bruce's death?
In either one.
Well, he's definitely involved because he chased Bruce through the street saying, I'll kill you yet. It's like a direct death threat.
I'll kill you yet.
Yeah. And then there's another death threat against Bruce where he put a pistol on the table and some money and asked Bruce to choose and told him that Bruce would be going on a ride if he didn't take the money.
Maloney said that.
Yeah.
And so where was this when he did the gun money? It's your choice,
Bruce's
baby.
Office.
Was there other people there?
No. But for the threat there was. Maloney's second in command, Lynch, was there with Bruce, and Bruce hopped into a taxi when he was running away from them and then made a formal account, and the taxi driver confirmed that that's what happened, and it was part of the 1958 senatorial committee that we have this verified account by the taxi driver and others that Bruce was formally threatened and chased through the Board of Trade area by Maloney and Lynch.
And what hearing was a Senate hearing?
Yeah.
For when he was being...
When they were investigating the unions. There's direct threats against Bruce's life. Also, spoiler, family lore is that Bruce tried to talk when he was dying, and that was reported in the newspapers at the time as well. And
Bruce was on his deathbed.
Yes, when he was dying in the street. And my family believes he was whispering or trying to say the words Maloney.
And the family lore was saying Maloney.
Which is why I haven't said it's like actually happened, because family lore, you can say any shit you want.
Sure. And with the passage of time, family lore becomes fact in a way.
But we have at least one or two accounts of direct death threats from Maloney to Bruce.
Right. And Maloney, there's no evidence that Maloney was that good as a sharpshooter.
Yes.
Plus, you had people there in Chicago, 1933, they're professional hit people. They do it for a living.
Yeah.
That's why you pay them the big bucks.
Although I had a lot of evidence that Maloney threatened Bruce and was involved in Bruce's life, there was no evidence that he was a particularly actually carried out hits or anything like that.
So he was all talking.
That's what I'm guessing. He was high enough up in the food chain. He's not actually on the gangster side of things. So yeah, he's all talk.
That makes sense. It's just his occupation. You'd have to be aggressive, kind of alpha, but you're not to be alpha, but then to go that next step and like put bullets in someone's body.
Yeah.
Takes a little bit more.
But I've always had the question, like I started off thinking probably Maloney was the main figure because my family's always thought so, because a lot of the accounts point to him. He was a very shady individual. But I've always thought or left open the possibility that it is possible it was Bruce pissing off Mike Carrazzo or someone else. And maybe Maloney said, oh, I don't like that guy. But I do think it's possible that Bruce got involved in a different way.
Oh, well, that's all quite interesting, really. So,
one of the last projects Bruce was working on before he died was paving contracts. And the paving industry was controlled by Mike Carrazzo and not William Maloney. And we have this account after Bruce dies of another big union official writing a speech about Bruce in April of 1933, so 2 months after he's dead, saying that he was talking to Bruce in the weeks leading up to his death, and that Bruce was increasingly anxious, and that he was caught up in these paving contracts and trying to report that the gangsters were involved in paving and wasn't sure where to go with that. Paving was not traditionally his industry. He did more hoisting. So I do think it's possible that maybe he got too close to Carrazzo. Carrazzo and Maloney are friends, and then that's when they decide, okay, he's got to go.
Possible. But Carrazzo, you've never been any statements or anything like that from any of these people.
No, and he dies in 1940. So,
Carrazzo did.
Yeah, he dies young, and there's really not that much on him thereafter. It's a pretty long time ago. But he is friendly with Maloney, and that's something I didn't know going into the project and found out through research and other things of how close of a relationship they had.
It's a real cold case. So you've gone back with the passage of time to see if you can dig up anything.
Yeah.
And so have you come to any conclusions? I know this is not the
It's not my ultimate. I don't want to spoil it too much. I have a pretty good guess on who pulled the trigger. So maybe we'll keep that one to myself for now.
Pulled the trigger.
But for the people in the car, that's really up to debate and something I'm really curious about.
Well, there's 3 people in the car. We know that.
2, and then the shooter.
And the shooter. And they all leave together.
Yes.
So there's 3 people.
Yes.
By my math.
Yes, there are 3.
Did he have any money problems? Did he owe money to anyone before he was shot?
Not to my knowledge.
And he wasn't involved in any kind of bootlegging or anything?
No. Throughout this investigation, I tried to be very open-minded in case I came across something that showed maybe he was nefarious, and I just truly haven't come across it. I've come across the opposite. Oh, and actually, I don't know if I've told you this, that he was a named plaintiff. It wasn't class action at the time, but we would call it now class action. He was a named plaintiff in a class action lawsuit here in D.C., in a federal lawsuit, where he was trying to better the conditions along with other unions in different cities around the U.S. against their leadership who was operating corruptly. And he was for Chicago and for his union, one of the named plaintiffs. So he went through deposition and all this stuff. And I didn't know that until I went to the National Archives and I pulled the court records. And I didn't realize that case went on until 1934. So there was an active federal class action, air quotes, lawsuit. And he was murdered.
While the case was going on.
Yes. Isn't that wild?
Did you ever try to determine the other plaintiffs?
I have the names of the other plaintiffs, yeah.
Did any of them get bumped off?
None of the other plaintiffs, but there is a...
That would have been a smoking gun.
One defendant is killed. The main defendant is killed. And that's why I thought the lawsuit fizzled, because when he's killed, I assumed the lawsuit, which was mostly about his leadership and his cronies, would fizzle. But his second crony in command just became head. And so they replaced him as the name in the lawsuit. And the lawsuit continued.
What happened with the lawsuit?
It does eventually fizzle. Actually, you would think this is very interesting. And I talked about it a little in my last episode. but like how class action lawsuits operated before Rule 23 and more succinct rules on how to deal with the difference in representing the class adequately, pleading standards, removing plaintiffs, adding defendants, amending your complaint was really clunky before these streamlined rules. In the 1932 amended complaint, it's Bruce and 2 others on behalf of their union, which is hundreds of members. And that's the same for the other unions as well. There's Detroit, Boston, D.C., New York, Chicago. Like it is clearly a class.
And they all join into this lawsuit.
Yeah, so it's very clearly a class action without the name.
Did you find the complaint?
Yeah. I found it in National Archives.
That must be pretty cool. Like just the way they wrote complaints back in those days.
I know. And so one of the problems they had with the complaint or with the lawsuit itself that Bruce and others write a lot of letters about that I saw when I went through his materials in the attic in Illinois was that they didn't like their lawyer. Their lawyer was a fancy big shot lawyer who they thought was dragging their feet. So I had a lot of information about the lawyer before I actually got to read the complaint. And then I read the complaint and I did think to myself, this is clearly done by a very sophisticated lawyer and law firm. I see why he was of status at the time.
The complaints would have been so different then.
Oh, it's full legalese.
Like the language they would use.
Herein within the plaintiffs attached to all of those. But it was very sophisticated, very well done. Actually, here I can show you an original signatures of Bruce's and everything. Here's a picture of the complaint being first page.
Look at all these people that were involved.
I know. Isn't that wild?
Oh, but you just have the first page.
No, you can flip. It's the whole thing.
How many pages is it?
At least 60.
That, for the time, that's huge.
When I read it, Danny, I literally said to myself out loud, this is very sophisticated. It's very well done. It's also on very pretty paper.
This is incredible. You know, back in the days, no computers, just to write this.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's well done.
It's beautiful.
Not a single error. One thing, which is very nerdy that I noticed, the headings off to the side are well done. They're in a slightly different font. They're spaced well.
Right. Just to put this together would have been a huge time consuming.
Yeah, formatting in the age of the typewriter.
In the manual typewriter. Mm-hmm. We're not talking electric typewriters.
No.
Wow. Duties of the General Executive Board. So they're going to go through like what everyone did. So it's broken into articles.
Yes. It's well organized, I have to say. And they attach exhibits as well, but within the first few things, it will go through what the duties and powers are of the various supervisors and leadership. And then it will go union by union or geographically for how they failed to meet them for each plaintiff group.
So they're saying that these people were unlawfully elected to be head of the unions.
Yeah. There's a lot of election fraud or just failure to hold election allegations.
Wow. This is quite something.
Isn't that unbelievable? I couldn't believe that like a family member of mine had been involved in this in the 30s.
On the margins, you have like suspension of elections, voting by supervisors.
Yeah, it's organized by topic. It's very well done.
I mean, this looks like it would take a year.
It's about what it took. Yeah.
We're working on nothing else. Just like, wow. I want to see how it ends.
Yeah, flip through.
So there's some handwriting on it. There's signatures. Here's the Constitution, the general laws and rules of the International Union of Operating Engineers.
Yep, one of the exhibits.
This is unbelievable.
Isn't that so cool?
So here's the answer, which is robust also.
Mm-hmm. It's not bad. And they actually, unlike modern litigation, answered shit. They didn't just say, you don't get to know this. They actually provided factual answers.
Right. They did do like a motion to dismiss right from the get-go. They answer it.
They answered it.
And then they litigated.
Yeah.
So that's what they were going for, was an injunction not to have these elections be unfair.
That's what makes me really sad. It does eventually fizzle for essentially like a failure to prosecute by the plaintiffs' groups. But it's really upsetting because the allegations are so clearly laid out there. And then in the 40s, there's renewed interest in everything racketeering. And then in the 50s, we have the senatorial committee and so many people looking into racketeering. And it's the same issues they identified in 1930.
They keep going.
Yeah,
and
it's
going.
just completely unchecked. And I've just been thinking, what if they had actually gone forward with this case? How different would this have been? Because the next time they get relief is 1958.
Yeah, it is interesting to think about. I mean, probably the stuff would have still been going on.
Once it's systemic, it's systemic.
Yeah, it's systemic, and they're just going to keep doing that. I mean, lay unions are famous for that. Huh. And so next week, you're going to you have a theory of who did this.
I have a theory on who pulled the trigger. Yeah, the car is very much up for debate. And I think the motive is really up for debate, which I think is kind of interesting as to who really decided this was the time and place to take Bruce out.
Like, why now?
Why now? What was so pressing about that time period for Bruce? Because when he was threatened, it was almost a year prior to his death. And he filed this lawsuit in 1930 with these others. And he's murdered in 1933. So it's not like this quick trajectory from lawsuit filed, taken out same year. There's a lot more time built in. So there's all these other events to kind of consider.
Right, which makes me think that the lawsuit might have been a factor, but it wasn't like the motive. There was something else that happened that he had to go.
I think so too. There had to have been some sort of escalating situation. And I do know he was under police protection at his house and office for 18 months in 1931 and 32 because of threats that had been made against his life and also kidnapping attempts of his children.
What was the rationale for the threats on his life?
Bruce was one of the main people keeping 569 operational and fighting to keep their licensing and everything in place so that they could remain in union. Because if you think about it, they've already paid into the death benefits and all the parts of their union. So when they're being told, now you have to join this new union, none of their benefits were being carried forward. So he was fighting to stay in his current union and not go with Maloney and the others to this new union that he knew was corrupt and run also by the Chicago mob.
The benefits from their old union are not going to carry over.
Exactly.
So why would anyone want to switch unions unless they're being promised something in the new union that the old union couldn't?
They were told your kids are gonna be kidnapped, your places are gonna be bombed. They're being threatened with violence, not any
if you
benefit.
don't vote for the new union.
If you don't go and vote, yep.
But so that's everybody's being threatened. It's not just.
Yeah, it's not unique to Bruce, but Bruce becomes one of the main resistors and the head of the resistance. But there are others, and I've thought about this too. He's not the sole person ever. It's usually a small group, maybe 1 to 3 people. But
who are the resistors who don't want their union being controlled by this new union that has the mob influence.
And I believe there's about 150-ish people who are in his union fighting to stay in his union and haven't gone into the other union. So he's not on his own. Those people, the other resistors, to my knowledge, were not murdered. So there's something unique about Bruce.
Right, because there's probably nothing unique about unions trying to take over other unions during this time period either.
It was really common way of colluding and getting in there.
Because
you could put your own people in power. Because they couldn't get elected anymore in Bruce's union because they were trying to keep a clean union. So they said, okay, fuck that. I'm going to make a new union. It's already full of corrupt supervisors. We've already set them up, and now you have to join ours.
You have to pay to go to union, right? I mean,
you have to pay dues.
Union fees and all that kind of stuff.
But they had their work contracts canceled and stuff like that. The new union.
The new union canceled the work contract.
For the old union to try and pressure, because also the context is we're in the Great Depression. There's not that much work going around.
So where were we? We
talked about a few topics, and now to sum up.
We're going to do the wrap-up.
Yeah, we're going to do the wrap-up. Do you have any advice as like a lawyer working a case that you would give me about wrapping up your case? Or do you have any questions?
Well, I'm very curious about the motive.
Yeah.
I'm curious about the timing, the why, the electricity going out. I find, for whatever reason, almost absurd that someone could go cut a line to the city that wasn't, I mean, it was a whole section. So from what you've said, it's not just two blocks in a neighborhood they got.
It might just be, it could be a couple blocks, just like the local wire. But to know that's what you're clipping and what it would do and to premeditate that is quite extreme.
It's very extreme. It shows someone that has inside connections to Chicago because they know how the grid works. They know at the time. And so from my point of view, I think there's someone else involved who cuts the wire.
What? I've eliminated that.
Not someone who was in the car. They go, they drive, they cut the wire,
I think
back
they just,
in the car.
Maybe they just got lucky and clipped a wire near his house and then kept driving the car. But you're right, it could have been someone more, I think it could go either way.
If it's a conspiracy, if it's a true conspiracy,
yeah,
and we know there are 3 people involved. We know that he had enemies. It makes a lot of sense to me. And if he was being followed, they knew he took the bus. He gets off the bus at this particular time.
Yeah, a streetcar.
That someone else would have been planned, and someone else would have cut the wire. It would not have been someone in the car.
You think it would have spooked him if the lights were out or turned off as he was walking?
No, I don't think so. That the lights, that it would spook
Bruce,
that the electricity went out. I think the gun probably spooked him.
Well, I just mean like if you're walking home and all of a sudden all the lights are cut. I assume they did it probably like 5 minutes before they knew. I mean, there's timetables. They probably knew which streetcar what he got on. But this is quite a sophisticated conspiracy.
Right, because he's always on. I'm sure he takes the train the same time every day, or the bus.
Yeah, it's streetcar, yeah.
A streetcar, but he takes the streetcar named Desire, baby. But they take the streetcar like every day, and probably
if it's his regular time, then they would know when it got off.
What time was he shot?
Around somewhere, I think between like 6:05 to 6:15. But yeah, because it is tricky. It's like if I were Bruce and I'm anxious and there's threats against my life, and as I'm walking, the lights cut, I might be freaked out and take a different route. So it's almost as if they had to be cut and he's walking being like, oh, they're weirdly out of order. But like to have them cut as you're walking would spook me.
But like you just said, it could have just been 1 or 2 blocks. It wasn't like all of Chicago.
No, it was just the neighborhood.
It was just the neighborhood.
So that's why I think someone could have just like known through past trial and error. Okay, clip this wire at this place and
maybe. But I truly think
you think there's another person?
There's another person involved.
Do you think it could be the other person who was sitting in the car who like clipped it and got back in the car? Or you think there's another person on the ground somewhere?
I think there's another person on the ground.
Oh my gosh. I developed that theory and dismissed it, but I'll bring it back for the finale.
But it seems to me that they're not going to have time to fuck around with thinking about cutting the wire, doing it properly. But that shows even more premeditation.
Yes.
You cut off the wire, you cut the lights out.
They knew the exact streetcar he was on. There's no way they didn't. That's pretty intense. They knew his schedule to a T. They knew what way he was going to walk home. They knew he was going to be.
And they could have followed him. He could have been followed from the time he left work. Got on the streetcar. I mean, you guess they didn't have walkie-talkies. That I have no idea.
I think driving distance-wise, I don't know if they would have made it in time. So I think they were probably waiting in his neighborhood. But yeah, that's the other thing is like, how are they communicating those things? It's no cell phones. So.
Right, no cell phones, no walkie-talkies. So you think, well, we don't know. But Maloney's going to be the guy. I mean, he's definitely the number one suspect. If he didn't pull the trigger.
Yeah.
And I don't think he pulled the trigger. I just don't. I think that it was a professional hit person.
Me too.
And Maloney would have had the connections to do the hit job.
Yeah. I think I'm most curious in terms of Maloney as to why the timing felt right for Maloney. What his true motive is more interesting to me. I think he clearly orchestrated it. But the motive becomes more dicey.
Well, why, though? The motive would be clear. He wants him out of the way so his labor union can take charge.
Yeah, but he's been fighting Bruce on those labor unions
Right.
since 1929.
And you had hundreds of other people that were also fighting him at the same time.
Yeah, so why not take him out in 1920? It's almost as if over the years, I don't know if Bruce just became more of a thorn in his side.
I'm sure she's totally in this, but did Edna and Bruce have any kind of marital strife or anything like that?
Not to my knowledge. It seemed to be a very happy family unit. And when she writes in to the papers after Bruce's murder, and she writes in August, and then I think
Edna does.
Complaining that his murder hasn't been solved.
But that wouldn't a guilty person who's trying to hide the truth, why wouldn't they go, well, this should be solved? Maybe, I mean, is there any possibility that
No,
Edna is?
none. She lives for a long time thereafter, too, and no, there's no way.
Because quite frankly...
Because it's always the spouse?
Kids. Well, not that it's always the spouse, but you got 11 kids, back in those days. She's got to be she's the housewife. She's, maybe she had something on Bruce.
No, I think she was very happy.
You taught me into it. Edna is not a suspect.
Yeah, she's kind of one of those like matriarchal figures that everyone talks about, like missing. She's one of those people. Like she was very lovely is what I can gather. I've uncovered some not lovely family members. I'm not hyping up everyone.
Right.
But for
Could
her...
any of the kids have been the murderer?
No. Well, I mean, one of the kids literally dies the same year from the shock of his father dying, and he's the one who runs out into the street and finds the body.
And so that of the 11, that child ends up dying.
Yeah, of a cardiac incident. They say he never recovered from the shock, and it triggered an old heart ailment. He dies. He's like 23 years old.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
Same year. So the family loses Bruce and the eldest brother in the same year. And he had, I believe he was married with a child as well.
At 23.
Yeah, because there's 11 kids, but there's quite an age range. It's not like 11 kids under 18. There's already a couple kids who are full adults. And I know that those adult kids took care of other kids. So, like, Edna wasn't.
Edna's clean. We definitely don't suspect Edna at all.
No, I don't. But I know that's the first place a police would start is the spouse. But not when it's like a politically motivated killing in the way this one is. As we head into our final episode next week, I wanted to give you a list of the suspects that I have on social media and on my website. From Edna's list, we have William Maloney, John Lynch, and Lloyd Little. From Dodie's list, we have the addition of William Green. And then we have a huge list of gangsters, racketeers, and hitmen, including Murray Humphreys, Charles Fischetti, William Three-Finger Jack White, Frank the Enforcer Nitty, Mike Carrazzo, Marcus Study Looney, William Klondike O'Donnell, James Fur Sammons, Claude Screwy Maddox, Frank Diamond, Daniel Kane, and Sam Alex. See you next time in The Murderer.
It was a dark, dark day in the alley. And the gunshots rang through the air. And old Bruce gets popped full of holes. But who did it? We'll have to find out next week. That's a wrap.
Yay!